on a deeper meaning, when you really trust in life or in God or in higher consciousness or whatever you name it, when you really trust, when you really get a deep trust in your heart, then you can solve big problems. Welcome. Today I'd like to talk about intelligence, but actually spiritual intelligence. Because normally when we talk about intelligence, the first thing which comes up is for us that we think about the cognitive function, the mind, or also called reason. All over the world nowadays, people give the reason, the mind, a high value. The whole educational systems in almost all countries are just testing the reminding functions of children. So they first of all have to learn a thing, and they get marks to repeat the thing. That's all. They just repeat things like a robot. But the big essential findings in mankind have never been from any mind. For the biggest inventions, something higher was involved, because the mind is just a fighting thing. The mind is just determined by the ego and is just influencing the person in negative ways, in negative thinking and in destructive thinking, which never leads to huge buildings, great cars, smartphones, or other inventions. The mind is the opposite of intelligence, actually. Because, as you know, maybe from learning, it disturbs the learning itself through negative emotions or other thoughts, negative thoughts, when you try to have neutral thoughts or positive ones. The mind makes from everything a dogma, from religious things, but also from everyday life stuff, makes dogmas. And the superego, which Sigmund Freud described as part of the mind, as part of the ego, is judging all the time. Therefore, the normal intelligence, the mind, is actually an obstacle on your way to the higher self, or whatever you call it, to God, to the union, to the connectedness. All the religions try to bring people to kind of a higher state of mind, but always the same problem was that the mind was there and made dogmas from the religion. It produced rules, strict rules, and made it a burden for people to go this path. But I know very religious people, very strong believing people, which are not that intelligent. I know an old woman which had just, I don't know, 8 years or 9 years of school, because it was still war. So she was in the Second World War, and she has such a strong belief, and she's even closer to the higher consciousness than any people which are considering and which are so entangled in thinking and in the what they call intelligence. So that's a big obstacle. But there are other kinds of intelligences too. I don't know if even the word intelligence is as a plural exists, but now we have a new word. Another kind of intelligence came up a few years ago in psychology, and it was named emotional intelligence. And as you know, from the normal intelligence, from the mind, they count it as IQ. And for the emotional intelligence, they tried to implement kind of an EQ. And this goes more in the direction of ethical stuff. This emotional intelligence was not about emotion per se. It was more about social competencies, empathy, kind like that. And this was very interesting, but it's almost forgotten. It was just one or a few psychologists which have considered that. And now we speak about spiritual intelligence, because this is another higher kind of intelligence which most people on university don't have. Maybe some philosophers, maybe some other arts scientists, but generally all the people which are there learning, thinking, calculating, doing all that kind of cognitive, reasonable stuff are very far away from spiritual intelligence. Spiritual intelligence is more about wisdom, is more about understanding the deeper meaning of life, is more about questioning. And here you can also do research. You can question basic questions. You can question, why are we actually here? Why am I? Why do I exist? And a few philosophers considered that. Not nowadays so often, but in earlier times, those philosophers who have considered these essential questions, that were actually the best philosophers from any philosophy. I mean, Eastern, Western, everywhere. And this is also about understanding the deeper meaning of religious books, because in most cases, the religious people are nowadays also just on the cognitive level, just on the thinking level, and they consider things of the religious books, but they are not so deep and so close to this, really, to this highest thing, to this deeper meaning, to the wisdom. And so they never reach their God or their higher self or whatever they strive for. Because the more they are thinking and considering that, the more far away they are from what they are actually searching for. And therefore, meditation is the solution, because meditation, when you have the right methods, it's about switching off the mind, calming down the mind, that you are open for this depth dimensions, for the spiritual dimensions. And then you also understand religious books in different ways, and you can interpret it useful to develop higher consciousness. You can interpret things in different ways. Let me give you an example. In the Bible, I think Mark 12 or so, I'm not so good in that, but there's a sentence like, if you really trust, then you can say to the mountain, go away and throw yourself into the water, into the ocean. So on a deeper meaning, what we are talking here on this channel is that when you really trust in life or in God or in higher consciousness or whatever you name it, when you really trust, when you really get a deep trust in your heart, then you can solve big problems. The mountain stands for a big problem, for a burden, and you just can throw it in the water. And on a deeper level, it means also kind of a union, because the mountain is just outside and the ocean is the whole thing. And so this is even more deep. This is deeper than we have talked before. But even to make problems smaller, to solve problems, throwing the mountain in the water is a deeper meaning already. But when I read the same verse earlier, I just understood, okay, someone believes in God or trusts something, and there's a mountain, and I really thought about a mountain, like, you know, this, and I really thought a mountain falls in a lake or in a sea. And then I was so, okay, that doesn't make sense. How can a mountain fall in the water? And I was considering and thinking, and I didn't get the verse. I didn't get what this verse means. I was just considering, like an image, like an internal picture in my mind, how a mountain falls into water. But I know actually that can't happen. That is not reality. And I just thought this is just a story to tell children as a good night story, you know. And I didn't consider the deeper meaning. And this was with all stuff from Bible or from other religious stuff or from myths from earlier ancient times. And so I was considering, okay, this is a nice story, it's interesting, but it's just to read to children when they should sleep. Okay. And so when we don't get the deeper meaning, we waste our time, we waste our life when we are just on the surface, just in thinking, in reminding things, in organizing things, calculating. We can calculate, we can organize our life the best we can with our cognitive intelligence. But as I said earlier, there are research reports. They ask many rich people how happy they are, and they are not happy. They have everything, and when you are really on that level that you have everything what you always wanted, you're not happy. You're still not happy. And in other research reports, when they asked them why are they not happy, they asked for the reasons, and they said there is never an end. There is always a striving for more and more and bigger and greater and more, but there is never an end. And they suffer from that they can't find the end, and they are always in stress, striving for bigger things, and this stress causes diseases, and so they struggle, they suffer, they don't enjoy their wealth. But you can enjoy your inner wealth with the spiritual intelligence. When you read Bible, or when you read, I don't make here ads for any religion, I'm neutral, but when you read essential books from another perspective, from a deeper meaning, from another level, this will open you new dimensions. First of all, of thinking, because you go in direction of wisdom then. And then this will also support your meditation progress when you have asked yourself the basic questions and when you consider about the whole thing. Now, just a quick definition. Some people differ intelligence from intellect. And here you must be careful, because sometimes with intelligence, they mean just the cognitive function, this thinking. And with intellect, this higher thinking, what philosophers do, this spiritual intelligence. But sometimes it's different, and another author or another researcher takes the same words, but vice versa. But, for the cognitive level, he names it intellect, and the higher thing, he names intelligence. So you must be careful here when you read something or when you hear something. But these are just terms. And terms are just from speaking, and speaking comes just from thinking. And therefore, this is not so important. But I just wanted to tell you that you must be careful, because it's not confused, but some people take it for that and some in another direction. If you'd like to add something, let me know down below in the comments. Have a nice time. See you next time. Bye.